Now I'm sure we'd all like to see this one. So why ain't it happened yet? Well, I'm about to tell you why this ain't happened, because there's more holes in this than there is a lump of trees.
I just want to fight. What's wrong with that? In the 70s and the 80s and the 60s, everyone fought everyone. Why is nowadays heavyweights hiding from each other? I don't want to fight each other. They're scared of a loss. Let's go, Duck Squad.
Now, this current situation all started with this fella here, Vladimir Klitschko. When he was unified champion, he'd reigned for 9 years and 7 months, which is ridiculous, until a mandatory was called against this fella. The WBA called this mandatory against Tyson Fury, who, and the fight was boring. It was 12 rounds of absolute, it was Fury at his absolute best, and it was Klitschko at his absolute worst. It was a proper moody fight, but Klitschko, he lost, Fury won. It was in Germany and all. So, and he wins all the belts. He makes his own little box for a belt and all, but he wins all the belts. So, yeah. Due to the lack of boxing knowledge and also having a proper pony promoter, Tyson Fury stripped to the IBF. So basically a fella called Martin and a fella called Glasgow, they fight for that belt, and the Martin fella wins. So now he's down to 2 belts, but they ain't going to last long neither, because there's a rematch coming up which Fury really don't want to take. He don't want to fight Klitschko again. He's even mentioned in the build-up to the fight that Klitschko's is going to knock him out, and he's going to help Klitschko knock him out. But in reality, you could just see what's going to happen, because Klitschko ain't going to fight as bad as he did in the first fight. So there's a pull-out, there's an injury, so the fight's called off, which Fury's over the moon with. But unfortunately for him, the fight's put back on. So Fury's thinking, how am I going to get out of this? So he takes recreational drugs to try and get out of the rematch. Oh, I've got a drug problem, I can't fight. But unfortunately for him, the governing body said, you know what, we can allow that, you can still fight. So he's thinking, oh, fuck it, what am I going to do? So he thinks, oh no, so he played a mentally ill, so he's mentally ill. And then all of a sudden, bosh, fights off. So Fury's loving it, so he's off. He's not got his rematch. Klitschko's left with no belts, poor fucker. And at the same time, there's a fella called Joshua, who's been climbing up in the rankings. He's been doing quite well, cleaning up domestically. There's another fella called Parker, Joseph Parker, in New Zealand, that's been climbing up the rankings and all. And there's another fella called Deontay Wilder in America that's been dropping down the rankings quite a bit. You also have some fringe fighters and all that are sort of gatekeepers, if you like. You've got David A, Dillian White, who Joshua's just beat, and this old fella here. You also had Tony Bellew and Dave Allen, who had all their numbers. Anyway, Fury had been stripped for ducking Klitschko, and Martin had picked up the belt. So in a bold move, which was a bold move back then, Eddie Hearn had made Martin v Joshua, which at the time was a fight that everyone said that Joshua was stupid for taking. It's way too early, everyone was backing the Martin fella. But the fight was on, the fight happened, it was embarrassing for Martin. Martin looked like a right tit. I mean, he just got dominated and just laid out. AJ won, and then he catapulted himself into the big leagues. After that, he made a defence against Dominic Brazil, who again, just embarrassing. He destroyed him. Just destroyed him and laid him out. And after that, he fought a fella called Molina. And again, a fight that everyone said that Joshua shouldn't take. He's not ready for Molina, and all this other stuff. And yeah, that was that was a massacre, that one. And then after that fight, Klitschko, it was ringside. They'd scraped Molina off the canvas, and then Klitschko got in the ring, and they announced a big fight that, again, everyone said Joshua was crazy for taking. And you got to remember, Joshua was a novice at the time, still a novice that he's fighting Klitschko, right? and Klitschko turned up better than he'd been in years. Like, it was the best Klitschko we've seen in years, and yeah, it was ups and downs in the fight, but ultimately it ended up with Joshua doing what Fury couldn't do. He knocked out and retired Klitschko. That was the end of that fella. After that, Joshua had an IBF mandatory against Pulev, but Kubrat Pulev pulled out because he had more important things to do, so it was given to this fella here, who did have a full training camp. So he was told from day dot that if Pulev pulled out, you'd be fighting. So anyway, there we go. He had the fight. Not bad little fight. It went a bit longer than normally Joshua fights go, but Joshua pulled out the victory, put him down quite a few times, and got the victory. That's the IBF mandatory out of the way. After he dealt with his mandatory, Joshua wanted to unify, as every boxer's dream, to unify, own all the belts, especially in the heavyweight division. So it went down to the two other fighters who had belts in that division, which were Josie Parker and Deontay Wilder. Now, the only one who was serious about fighting was Josie Parker. Wilder wanted no parts of Joshua then, he still don't now, as you'll see as this video goes along. So Parker v Joshua was made. It weren't the greatest of fights, but it's partly down to the fact that Parker was fighting to survive rather than fighting to win. One good thing come out of it, I suppose, Joshua showed that he can go 12 rounds, durable and what have you. But Joshua adds another belt to his collection. Now he's got one more belt, well, two. He's got the WBC, which is basically locked away with a fella that, petrified, and the Ring magazine, which is number one anyway, but they don't want to give it to him until he beats Wilder. So anyway, that fight's out of the way. He's got another belt. So around this sort of time and all, there's someone who's been sort of a lost man in the division, who's holding a belt of ransom, Deontay Wilder. He's finally, after 40 fights roughly, he's finally stepped up, and he's taking his big test in his 40th fight against, there is him, Luis Ortiz. Never done anything in boxing at all, a complete bum. His biggest win was probably Malik Scott. Absolute embarrassing, and he stepped up to fight this man in a fight that he was unbelievably lucky to win. He was getting outboxed in portions. He got wobbled, right, and it should have been a TKO or at the very least a standing 8 count, but the ref obviously protected him just like he's been babying and protected his whole career, and he managed to knock the old fella out. The old fella, by the way, was like an 84-year-old, just come off of PEDs, and the fight was off an hour before the fight started because he had high blood pressure. And he just about, embarrassing. Anyway, after 3 years of running from the Klitschko rematch, Fury fella comes back. Vladimir Klitschko got retired by Joshua, so the close was clear for him to make his return. His return was seen as a joke straight away, as he signed with Frank Warren, who's an absolute dinlo. Anyway, his first fight back was with this fella, Sefer Seferi. The fight lasted 4 rounds, and it reminded us how boring Fury really was. A couple months later, he fights this fella, Francesco Pianetta, which goes a full 10 rounds and contributed to 17 suicides. But let's get back to Joshua and let's talk about the initial offer from Joshua's team to fight Deontay Wilder. Deontay Wilder then sent an email from his personal Hotmail account saying that he offers Joshua $50 million, which is about £42 million roughly, to fight him, which off the bat, that's a moody email straight away, because he's never even seen 8 mil, let alone 50 mil. But anyway, Joshua hears about the offer, and he says, give me 50 mil and I'll fight you, which unfortunately for Wilder and his team, they can't gather 50 mil, so that they concocted a story that it has to be on BT, which is a deal breaker straight away, because BT is an irrelevant channel when it comes to boxing, and Joshua's contracted to fight on Sky. But anyway, Eddie was still sort of interested, so he said, alright, let's sit down, let's have a talk about the deal. Let's go over a few points, which is when this div comes into it, and he says, no, we can't discuss it, it's undiscussable, you've got to just sign it, don't worry about details, don't worry about terms, just sign it, which is crazy. So, and he says, all right, let me at least see proof of funds, let me just see that, because you keep talking about this bag of money, so let me see this bag of money. Unfortunately, there never was a bag of money. It had been a big ploy just to boost Wilder's name off the back of Joshua. Right, that'll do for now, I reckon. I'll wrap this one up as part 1. I'll do part 2 another day.
If there's ever a man that looks like a weasel, that's fucking him. Deontay Wilder, what more can I do? Deontay Wilder fight one mandatory challenger in 4 years. One. In 4 years. Or can he still be champion? One.